And welcome to the 2020 Division I Men's Soccer Selection Show. I'm your host, Will Haskett. Yes, the calendar says 2021, but the winner of this tournament will forever be known as the 2020 National Champion. It's been a longer than expected reign at the very top of the sport, and it may or may not conclude for Georgetown coming up with the Hoyas' thrilling 7-6 penalty kick triumph over Virginia. Still the last championship back in 2019. It was the first in program history. And this year, the field has only 36 precious spots up for grabs. And with 22 automatic berths, that leaves just 14 at-large spots available today to be unveiled. 8 teams will battle it out in the first round coming up on April the 29th, with the rest of the field waiting in the second round 3 days later. We will whittle it all down to the College Cup kicking off on May the 13th. The championship game will be on May the 17th at Wake Med Soccer Park, and every match this postseason taking place in Cary, North Carolina and the surrounding areas. All right, so now the big question, right? Who will be there? Well, the answer to that question really begins with who is in the tournament to begin with. And before we get to the bracket, we'd like to welcome the chair of the Division I Men's Soccer Committee, Chris Schneider, to the broadcast. Hey, Chris, I know there's a ton of excitement simply to have a tournament to talk about amongst you, the committee, and the entire sport.
Very excited to get to this point of the season. We know it's been an extremely challenging year for everybody. And first, I'd like to congratulate the student athletes, the coaches, and all of our institutions for being able to work through this pandemic. I know they put in a lot of hard work and they sacrificed a lot. And we're very excited to get to this point of the season.
I know that it had to be a really challenging process for the committee to get through just for a number of different reasons. One, a smaller amount of teams in the field for this year, and then also the fact that you had these really condensed schedules and you didn't have an opportunity to see a lot of these teams outside of conferences against one another. What were those challenges like as the committee tried to put together this bracket?
Yeah, those are things that I think we all knew coming into selections, something that we actually started talking about last fall when we saw that a lot of our programs were going to be moving their seasons into the spring. But as you mentioned, we saw there was a lot fewer cross-conference and cross-regional play for comparisons. We also saw a lot of teams, play fewer games than they used to. So there were a lot of fewer points for us to compare directly that we would have in the past. So this year, I think the committee relied a lot on our regional advising committees. And those are made up of coaches from each of the conferences within the region. And they really helped us, learn more about the eye test of some teams and really helped to break down the strength of the conferences. So the committee, we took that into consideration during our discussions.
And a unique part, now that we will have a bracket to unveil here in just a second, is that all of the games will be taking place pretty close to one another. It's almost going to be sort of a celebration, reunion, whatever you want to look at it as it relates to Division I men's soccer. I have to imagine it's going to be a really fun reward for the end of the season coming up, not just for the teams, but for your committee and everybody around the sport.
Yeah, we think it will be. It'll be a great experience for everybody coming down to North Carolina. And a great, we have a lot of great venues in the areas, and this is going to be, I think, an outstanding showcase for men's college soccer.
All right, Chris, you hang right there. We'll bring you back at the end of the bracket because I'm sure there'll be some questions as we get into it and unveil these teams. But let's not delay the drama any longer and get right to it. We will dive into the bracket. The top overall seed awaiting its opponent in the second round. That belongs to Clemson, fresh off a shutout win over Pitt to secure the ACC's automatic berth. The two-time national champion Tigers return to the tournament for the 33rd time. Quinn McNeil scored the game winner in the 17th minute of that contest, which was enough for the Tigers D to put the clamps on for their 5th shutout all-time against Pitt. The Tigers await the winner of our first-round matchup. Jacksonville got the ASUN AQ and will meet another AQ as American captured the Patriot League to get to the tournament for the first time since 2004. With a shortened season for many, we have a few undefeated teams in this bracket, with Fordham the first to unveil. The A10 winners will match up with Marshall in the second round. The Conference USA AQ recipients will look to keep its keeper hot in a deep tournament run. Oliver Semi has 8 shutouts this year for Marshall. That is tied for the top mark in the country. All right, a couple of at-large berths to award in our next game, starting with the postseason-tested Penn State. A loss in the Big Ten championship match to Indiana forced the Nittany Lions to rely on an at-large berth here in 2020, but pushing Indiana to PKs did more than enough to secure the program's 34th tournament trip on a strong Big Ten resume. That will get them a date with UMass. The Minutemen earn a 5th tournament berth with only one loss on the ledger. It came against Fordham, which proved to be the A-10 decider. No such drama for High Point, the Big South AQ, the tournament bound for a second time to meet the champions from Georgetown. Seeded 8th in this bracket, the reigning champs have been able to hold the trophy for a few extra months, but the Hoyas have no plans to let go of it either. Jacob Montes was the leading scorer in that tournament run for the Hoyas and is one of several players in that championship squad back for a run at back-to-back titles. He entered the weekend tied for the team lead in assists with Derek Dodson, who was an all-tournament team member back in 2019. All right, sliding on down now, the 5th seed belongs to Wake Forest. The 2007 national champions have not been beaten this spring, registering a point in all 6 matches, including a scoreless tie against Clemson, the top seed. All was a deep roster. 11 different players have registered goals in the Deacs' 15 matches this season, led by the 6 of Kyle Holcomb. This berth marks 10 consecutive tournament trips. Wake Forest opens with Coastal Carolina, who secured the Sun Belt automatic qualifier last fall and has been waiting several months for this show to see its name called. They get Wake Forest in the second round. Kentucky makes it to its 3rd straight tournament and now 6 of the last 7 playings to take on undefeated New Hampshire. Champs of the American East use the automatic berth to return to the tournament for the 4th consecutive time and 5th overall. North Carolina returns to the tournament after missing out on the 2019 field. The Tar Heels earn an at-large berth to return this season. Alex Smear is in goal and led the ACC in shutouts, earning second-team all-conference honors. And if you believe in trends, this could be a big year for the 2-time national champions whose titles came in 2001 and 2011. And if that 10-year pattern is to continue, they get 2 cracks at it with double the college cups on the schedule for 2021. It won't be an easy path with Charlotte, the second-round opponent. Celebration time for the 49ers, who earn an at-large selection despite a 2-0 loss to Marshall to end the season and put their fate in the hands of the committee. And the program's 15th tournament trip this year marks 10 years since the team's run to the championship match. It is also the 9th tournament berth in the last 10 seasons for the 49ers. That leaves 3 teams on this side of the bracket with the first-round matchup between Southern champion UNC Greensboro and Denver, which captured the automatic berth from the Summit League. Winner of that will earn a date with the 4th overall seed, which belongs to Stanford. And it would not be a tournament without the Cardinal, who have made 8 straight tournaments with all 3 national titles coming in this current run. Zach Ryan leads a potent offense that scores over 2.5 goals per game this season. That is top 10 in the country. The team enters fresh off a win over Washington to secure the Pac-12 automatic qualifier. All right, so that is half of the teams down. Allows us a chance to slide over to the other half of the bracket. We've already unveiled the 1 and the 4 seed, which means the 2 and the 3 seeds still to come on the other side of the bracket. And we lead off with the 3 seed. That belongs to Indiana. The 8-time national champions look the part again this season, bolstered by the best defense in the country and fresh off a Big Ten title. The Hoosiers are allowing less than 0.2 goals per game on the capable shoulders of goalie Roman Celentano. He leads the nation in save percentage. And on offense, Victor Becerra, one of the top goal-scoring threats in the country. He's in double figures on the year and a menace for opposing defenses. The Hoosiers await the winner of Milwaukee, which knocked off Northern Kentucky for the Horizon League title, and the AQ from the Northeast, St. Francis Brooklyn, in the tournament again this year. Happy Monday to Marquette. For the first time since 2013, the Eagles are dancing, making it 3 bids from the Big East Conference. They open with Loyola Marymount. The Lions captured the WCC title for the program's 8th tournament berth and the first back-to-back since 2004. An undefeated season was secured in dramatic fashion in the final match of the year when the Lions got goals in both the 89th and 90th minute to knock off St. Mary's 3-1 for the first WCC crown since 2013. The defense has surrendered just 2 goals in its 8 matches this season. Goals will not be a problem for Oregon State, which earns an at-large bid. The Beavers led the Pac-12 in scoring, averaging over 2.5 scores per game this year. Gloria Monda leads the country with 15 goals, scoring over 1 per contest this season. That offense will fly against a team likely sweating it out today as we keep the streak alive for Virginia Tech. The Hokies are officially in their 5th straight NCAA tournament. Less drama for WAC champion Air Force, flying into the program's 14th tournament to battle Seton Hall in the second round. We mentioned the Big East earlier. What a weekend for the Pirates, who make the tournament for the first time since 2005 thanks to a thrilling win in the Big East Championship. It was the first conference title in 30 years, getting a 2-1 win in enemy territory against Georgetown. Junior C.J. Tibbling scored the game-winning goal in the 63rd minute. He's the leading scorer for the Pirates. It came up big when his team needed it and will be called upon again now in the NCAA tournament. All right, we move now to the last quarter of the bracket. The 7 seed belongs to Washington. A late overtime goal at Stanford denied the Huskies back-to-back Pac-12 titles, but the resume is just too good to overlook as Washington makes its 26th tournament appearance. Sam Fowler was the best keeper in the conference all season, leading all Pac-12 goalies in save percentage, goals against, and shutouts. On offense, Charlie Ostrom is the engine that makes it go, second in the country with 10 assists this year. The Huskies' opponent, how about we ease the stress a little bit for one team on the edge of its seat right now? Take a breath, Grand Canyon. The Lopes earn an at-large berth after taking its first loss in the WAC finale. It is the program's second NCAA berth, and after surrendering a total of 3 goals in the previous 6 games, the 3 allowed against Air Force in the WAC championship was certainly tough to swallow, but that is a distant memory now with this bid. The Lopes actually outshot their opponent in that matchup and hope the goals will now come as the program seeks its first NCAA tournament victory. All right, another precious at-large to hand out. It belongs to Maryland. The Terps snag a spot. A loss in the Big Ten semifinals wasn't enough to keep the 4-time national champions out of the tournament. They open with Missouri State, the Missouri Valley champions, earning back-to-back tournament berths for the first time in program history. It is the 8th tournament appearance for UCF, the automatic qualifier from the American Athletic, which will try to score on James Madison in the second round. The Colonial champs will rely on T.J. Bush in goal, who is tops in the country in save percentage this season. And I will tip my cap to the committee for our final first-round matchup because it's very rare you get MAC-on-MAC matchups. That's what we have here. Monmouth, the automatic qualifier of the AA MAC, while Bowling Green won the single-A MAC's AQ for the team's first berth since all the way back in 1997. The winner there gets our final team to unveil the number 2 overall seed. That would be Pittsburgh. What a ride for the Panthers. Made the tournament for the first time in over 50 years in 2019. Now back with eyes on the program's first title. 2.5 goals per game for one of the country's top offenses, paced by 3 different players who were top 10 in the ACC in goals scored this year. All right, that's it. Every single team in the bracket. So much to digest there. So let's bring Chris Schneider back in, chair of the NCAA Division I Men's Soccer Committee. And all right, we've seen kind of where some of these teams slotted in, Chris, the at-large selections that were handed out, how the seeding worked. We kind of mentioned off the top what you guys were looking at in terms of figuring out these wild, condensed sort of schedules. What ended up being some of the factors that kind of leveled things out in terms of both seeding and the final teams in?
Yeah, well, I think what we talked about at the start of the broadcast. It's hard to say there's one deciding factor when you're looking at a pool of teams. So a lot of it depended on the specific comparisons. But what we looked at was because there was kind of a lack of consistency in terms of who played across region or out of conference. We had to look at a few things in terms of what were teams able to accomplish within their conferences. And if they had, significant results against teams in the tournament, those were things that the committee looked at. And again, as I mentioned earlier, input from our regional advising committees. So just as difficult as it was to select those at-large teams, it was almost just as difficult to do comparisons for seeding and placement. But one interesting fact for this year that allows the committee a little bit more flexibility is that because all of the teams are coming to North Carolina in one site, we're able to do a little bit more of a true national pairings when we looked at seeding a bracket. So we're seeing some matchups that we may not have been able to see in the past due to some travel restrictions.
Yeah, some very unique matchups, and I think some really entertaining ones coming up as well. We don't have a first-time participant in this bracket. Can't remember the last time we haven't had one of those. A lot of that has to do with what's going on at the conference level to get there. But I also wanted to ask you, what does that say about the depth of the sport? Because we've just seen so much good talent at the top, but there are a lot of non-power conferences with at-large selections in this bracket. It really shows how good and deep the sport has become.
Yeah, it really does, and I think that that was highlighted by the challenges that the committee faced. With only being able to select 14 at-larges, we found ourselves having a lot of discussions about a lot of different teams from various conferences. So I think you are seeing a lot of depth across the country in men's college soccer.
All right, so everybody's going to come together. The work of the committee is done, at least for now. Now it has to do with the action on the pitch itself. We'll have a women's champion sort of crowned right alongside the men's tournament, which is a really exciting thing for the sport. What's got your interest most piqued now that the bracket is behind you and we start looking forward to games in a week's time?
I think the opportunity to see both men's and women's tournament in North Carolina at the same time, you're going to see two outstanding championship fields competing there, and we're just excited to get down there and get it all started.
Chris, thanks so much for the time. Congratulations to you and the committee. I know a lot of long hours. Get some restful sleep the next couple of days because I know it'll be a lot of soccer watching in your future.
Great. Thanks, Will.
All right, guys, the opening round is right around the corner, so the postseason action will be here before you know it. The 4 first-round games will take place coming up on April the 29th with the second-round action on May the 2nd. Make sure you check right back here on NCAA.com for updated results and news throughout the tournament, all from Cary, North Carolina and the surrounding area. The College Cup kicks off with the national semifinals on May the 14th, the national championship on the 17th, all from Cary, North Carolina. You can catch the Men's College Cup on ESPNU, with the champion being crowned, as we mentioned, alongside the women's tournament. An awesome opportunity for the sport. Thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations and best of luck to all the student athletes competing in this year's championship.
For the win!
If a champion can teach us anything, it's to stay hungry, to keep our resolve, and to prepare for what's next. So to the players in the college sports community who never stop believing, the end goal is in sight, the ultimate rally, a comeback for all ages. For the fans, the teams, and most importantly, the players. Let's bring on the next champion. We're ready.